Hello and welcome back to Talon 101. I don't need to tell you that rage arts are a problem, for Hwoarang specifically, because any string sequence you do can get interrupted by a rage art. At that point, your momentum is interrupted and you're potentially dead if they have low HP because the damage just scales like crazy. So what we want to do in this video is figure out how to move around rage arts in left foot forward, in right foot forward, in left flamingo, and right flamingo. We will not be covering any of the stances in back turn, so that would be back turn left foot forward, back turn right foot forward, back turn left flamingo, back turn right flamingo, because usually you're just gonna be like doing fox step or gaining space away from your opponent. Not gonna cover that. Only gonna cover the 4 stances when you're aligned with your opponent, because once you know it, you can do something like this to avoid a rage art. So the first thing you need to know is that you want to remain in left foot forward or right foot forward anytime the opponent has rage, because if you put yourself in left flamingo or you put yourself in right flamingo, again, these are stances where you can't block and require you to do very specific things in order to stay alive. So if you want a general idea of how to handle rage arts as Hwoarang, basically stop stringing. So don't do many sequences against your opponent. Simply do something basic. So something like DF1 wait, DF1 sidestep, 1-2 wait, or even like 1-2 forward 3, because that can't get rage arted. And you don't do anything else. If you get something like down 3-4 and hit, you end it with like RFS down 4 or RFS 3 slide 4 flying eagle. Do not ever put yourself in an instance where you're still stuck in flamingo like this, because that invites an opponent to do a rage art. Also, if you do not have frames like this, if you're +6, you can interrupt them with like a DF1. But if you do not have frames, let's say you're +1, -1, or even something like +2, don't bother, because you have no frames to work against a rage art. It's just like, come on, for real? There is none? Yes, there is none. So if we tell Jin Kazama over here to simply do a rage art as Hwoarang is +1 on block, and I try to jab right after, it activates. I get punished. I'm dead. If I try to do another jab after RFF2, which leaves Hwoarang at +2, I'm dead. If we bring it down to 0 on block after RFF2-1, and I mash RFF2, I still lose. Now we go back to -1, DF1 into a jab. That's going to be an 11 frame jab. Still activates. It's a counter. It's not a punish, but you still lose. That is your general outline when dealing with rage arts as Hwoarang. Now let's go to the specifics. Left foot forward and right foot forward first, because these two stances are kind of identical to each other in the sense that you're allowed to block in these stances, right? So we're gonna go at +3, +4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Frame specific stuff. So one thing you can do at +3 is that you're allowed to jab now. So you'll prevent any armor or rage art challenge if you jab at +3. So that's the example. We're gonna bring in the rage art. Gonna do RFF2-1-1 on hit, because that's +3 for Hwoarang. Gonna mash jab. See that? Jin can't do anything. One last time, RFF2-1-1, jab again. So +3, you can throw out an I-10 move. Now, if you go up to, let's say, +4, we're gonna ask Jin to block in this instance, just to show you again without the rage art. So +4 would be stuff like backlash or RFF back 2. You put Hwoarang at +4, and what you're allowed to do is throw out an 11 frame move. So if you did something like backlash, you can press 4-4 or 4-3, prevent someone from doing an armored move, or in this case, a rage art. If you did something like RFF back 2, simply pressing RFF2, RFF2-1, or even RFF1 would stop a rage art. You can't press RFF4 because that comes out at 12 frames. So if you wanted to still use 11 frames here after RFF back 2, you'd have to press down 2. So now let's bring back the rage art. We're gonna tell Hwoarang to do backlash into 4-3 or 4-4. That's not allowed. That's 4-4. Now we're gonna do 4-3. No rage art. And then RFF back 2. We're gonna do RFF2 only. Perfect. So that's generally what you want to do. So again, you can only use highs, as you notice here. Like at +3, only a high. At +4, only a high. Unfortunately, at +4, you're not allowed to grab. They still have an opening. The only time you're allowed to grab is when you're +5. So again, the higher the number, the more options you're allowed to do. So +5 example would be something like LFS1 or RFS2 on block And so again, 12 frames or faster. So now you're allowed to use any of Hwoarang's throws. So that's up forward 1+2. You can, if you again have the execution, that's an error on QCB3. And it comes out at 11 frames flat. Good. Let's bring back Rage Art here. And we're going to do LFS1 into Roll and Choke. 2+4 back. So LFS1, Roll and Choke. No Rage Art. Now let's go to RFS2 and try to do Roll and Choke. That is Jackknife. Nope. So the canceling RFF will eat up the frames there. You don't have. So you can't consider Roll and Choke anymore. So again, only up forward 1+2 and Jackknife. Now, let's boost up the frames again. This is the one time you're allowed to actually press a mid check. So a mid check, let's say after running 3 or FF3 because these are both +6. So the option you want to do is either DF1 or DF3 +4. So in open space, you'll have to be wary with FF3 because, again, the opponent can backdash here, but DF3 +4 will prevent that, so no need to go to the wall. But of course, if you do DF1 here, it's gonna whiff. So let's bring the Rage Art back. So I'm gonna do running 3 into DF1, no Rage Art. Now I'm gonna do FF3 into DF3 +4, no Rage Art. But going back to the numbers, if we increase this to +7 and one of Hwoarang's +7s that keep the opponent on a standing hit, we're not gonna go with RFS down 4, which is +7 force crouch. We're gonna go with RFF3, which is +7 on hit. The moment you're here, you're allowed to press a 14 frame move or faster. So the 14 frame move we're gonna use for this example is up forward 3 +4. Because it comes out at 14. If you want another 14, you can press, standing 3-3. So we're gonna bring back the Rage Art here on hit. We're gonna throw out RFF3 into a forward 3 +4, and that doesn't activate at all. The only time you get a lot of frames is once you're +8. So +8 would be something like a jab on hit or RFF2 on hit, which is very basic. And what you're allowed to do is a 15 frame move. So that's DF2 or F1 +2. So to bring back the Rage Art here, I'm gonna do a jab to DF2, jab, DF2, no Rage Art. Now we're gonna do RFF2 into F1 +2, no Rage Art. So on screen, you're gonna see the options that you're allowed to do per frame. So again, at +3, 10 frames, at +4, 11 or faster, at +5, 12 or faster, at +6, 13 or faster, at +7, 14 or faster, and at +8, 15 or faster. Now, a couple of other things that you're allowed to do when you're in left foot forward and right foot forward is that you can actually use movement, depending on your frames, right? So if I'm like +1, I can move, depending on the opponent's Rage Art. And in Jin's case, I'm allowed to like sidewalk left this move, or sidewalk right. Of course, depending on my frames, that's +1. If I change it to, let's say, 0 and then move again, I can move, I'm free. Now we go 0 into sidewalk right. I get hit. Don't know if my sidewalk right wasn't perfect, so we're gonna do that again. Put Hwoarang at 0 and then try to move. Nope, that's a duck. No, so you cannot sidewalk right Jin's Rage Art at all. So only left. And this is gonna change depending on like the opponent's Rage Art all the time and your frames. You generally just want to keep it up to like -3 because at -3, I can still move. Of course, that was -2. I'm kind of cheating there. But yeah, you can still move at that point because if I go -3, right? Let's use a RFS Flying Eagle and I backdash. The game will record my backdash. I'm still free. So you can use movement, but of course don't move too much. So like the moment you do see a Rage Art or like if you're heavily negative, let's say something like DF4, just hold back. Don't even double tap that. So that's everything for left foot forward and right foot forward versus Rage Arts. Let's move on to the more dangerous ones. Left Flamingo and right Flamingo. We're gonna tackle left Flamingo first before tackling right Flamingo. So left Flamingo has some problems. What do I mean by that? Number one, it's because your frames in Flamingo are way slower. Or well, left and right, right? Because again, your fastest move, not counting RFS F4, is a 13 frame high. And then at least you have a throw. But that's the only throw you have, F2 +3. None of the Flamingo frames, like +4 on CD3 and LFS 43 will save you. It's not the same as when you do +4 here in left foot forward or right foot forward, because the requirement is 11 frames or faster. There is no 11 frame here in left Flamingo. We only have a 12 frame, which means your cutoff starts at +5, and +5 at the wall because up 3 has pushback on block. So just to show you when you could beat a Rage Art here at +5 in left Flamingo, the only option you have is F2 +3. So we're now gonna bring back Jin's Rage Art, and we're gonna do F2 +3 right after up 3 on block. No Rage Art. And just to bring it back in open space, if you try to do F2 +3, yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Jin goes under the grab. So yeah, watch that distance again on block. It technically applies to like all the stances, but in like left Flamingo, you're gonna have to be really wary of it. So that's like the 1+5 situation where you can potentially prevent an opponent from doing a Rage Art. The next one you want to look at is LFS 3 forward. Not the one on block, but the one on hit, because this move on hit is +8. So +8, if we go back to left foot forward and right foot forward, it means you can throw out 15 frames or faster, right? But again, there's no 15 frame move in this stance. The closest you get is 16, and if you press that, you know you're gonna lose. So that means you can only press 14 or faster in left Flamingo. So those moves would be another 3 forward or LFS 4. We're gonna bring back Jin's Rage Art here. We're gonna do LFS 3 forward on hit, and I'm gonna press LFS. See, didn't even activate. The last thing in terms of frames that you're allowed to do is, of course, like the ones that are like super plus on block. I'm talking about like 1, 2, 3 on hit and RFF forwards 3 on block or on hit, because the frames here, as you can see, that like +12. For as long as it's like any move in Flamingo that goes on hit that has massive frame advantage, you're actually allowed to press a 17 frame move or faster. So we're gonna bring back Jin's Rage Art, and we're gonna do RFF forwards 3 to a couple of LFS moves on block. So LFS F4, no Rage Art. LFS down 3-4, fastest down 3-4 for Hwoarang, prevented. So at a mid, LFS back 4-3, perfect. Now, the actual last thing you're allowed to do in left Flamingo is to do the extremely risky thing. So let's say you do something like LFS 3 forward on block, which only leaves you at +2. You have nothing in terms of like the frames to even like trade with a move, because at least with 1, 2, 3, that leaves you on +3. You trade with like LFS 1 versus a standing jab. At LFS 3 forward, nothing will trade. So what you need to do in these situations that aren't covered by frames is that you need to commit to a sidestep right first as soon as you do the move, and then press LFS back 1. Now, there's no guarantee that you will avoid a Rage Art. Again, highly dependent on like the opponent's Rage Art, but it's a chance. So you're gonna gamble on that fact to like bait your opponent in this situation to throw out a Rage Art, because they know they can shut down a lot of stuff from Hwoarang if they have Rage. So again, we're gonna bring back Jin's Rage Art here. I'm gonna do LFS 3 forward, sidestep right into LFS back 1. I already did it. I'm committing. That was not the thing because it registered up back 1. Again, you need to make it register back 1. So let's do that again. I am now mashing. It says back 1. Free. So that's +2. What about the +4? Yeah, you can do it on the +4. For as long again you sidestep right into it. You're gonna have to lab this out against every Rage Art in the game for like all the other situations on block for Hwoarang in left Flamingo. This one is a bit of an asterisk because you can do it, but it is a huge risk. That is letting the foot go down in left Flamingo. This is a risk because if you do not know when the recovery frames end, so that, you know, Hwoarang's actually blocking here and he's not in left Flamingo stance, you're gonna be in trouble. So like, it'll be better for you to like simply just commit to an SSR into LFS back 1, or simply know your frames on like when you're allowed to press. Doing this is a big risk because the moment you mess this up just slightly, he might end up in left Flamingo as you hold back, or you might get caught on the backdash or whatnot. So you need to be able to know when he's like free to like hold back here. So we're gonna just show it here, demonstrate it. 2-3, his foot's going down, block. But of course, are you gonna do that in the heat of the moment? I sure as hell won't. I sure as hell won't. I will commit to that back 1. But if you know the timing of your recovery frames, you certainly can do this. But just know, again, big risk for Hwoarang in left Flamingo stance to beat a Rage Art. Not a lot of options, but you gotta get creative with it. So let's move on to right Flamingo stance. This has a little bit more. It's a lot closer to like left foot forward and right foot forward, simply because of this one move, RFS F4 or right parabellum kicks. Because again, this is an I8 high that will just pretty much shut down most options from the opponent. So we start at +1. +1 is the frames where Hwoarang is allowed to stop an opponent from throwing out a Rage Art. So if you're +1 all the way up to +4, you can stop anyone from like throwing out a Rage Art. So we're gonna start with like Air Raid, right? Air Raid, no Rage Art. He tried to do it, didn't activate. Now let's go on hit. Let's do RFS F4 into another RFS F4. That's +2. He couldn't do it. Now, of course, he's gonna try to commit to Rage Art already at that point. So just to do this again, you wanna do RFS F4 and hit to another RFS F4. No Rage Art. Next one, +3. Up 4 on block into RFS F4. Prevented. No Rage Art there. And your last +4 would be LFS4 into RFS F4. No Rage Art there again. So those are the only frames where Hwoarang is covered in order to stop a Rage Art. Now we increase the number. We're gonna push this now to +5. Now this +5 is a little bit tricky, as I mentioned in another video, simply because your opponent can like challenge here, right? And there's some pushback if you're not aware of it. Like some moves would lose here on a backdash, blah, blah, blah. So the same thing would apply like when trying to like stop a Rage Art. So we're gonna start here in open space. And the move we're gonna use is RFF4 forward. Now again, you're +5. That means again, 12 frames or faster. And the only moves you have that are fast enough are RFS F4, because again comes out 8 frames, and RFS F2 +3, because you're allowed to do Human Cannonball in, you know, all of his stances, which is great. So, right, Flamingo gains a little buff here because you can do that. So we're gonna bring back Hwoarang, Jin's Rage Art, right? His rival, Hwoarang's rival. And we're gonna do RFS F4 first, prevents Rage Art. Into 2 +3, catches. Now, what do I mean by the pushback? We're gonna do it off RFF DF4. Yeah. So you were right in terms of the frames, but because this one part exists, you cannot stop them. So it becomes an option you can't use if you do it off RFF DF4, but you can do it off RFF4. You'd only be able to do RFF DF4 into F2 +3 if you were at the wall, not in open space. Now we jump the number into +8. Now at +8, now you're allowed to press 15 frames or faster. So your main option here to prevent someone from pressing is an unsafe mid. Now if you don't want to do that, again, you're stuck with your highs. RFS F4, RFS F2 +3, and RFS 2. Now there is one frame situation I singled out. So I said +1 to +4, you can cover yourself with like RFS F4, because again, 8 frame move. The moment you're 0 or anything lower than that, it's bad for Hwoarang. So like if you try to like down back 4 into RFS F4, you see that? You always lose to Rage Art. Always. I cannot stress it enough. Do not try to bait your opponent here. Because if you try to bait your opponent here and like see if they go for a normal punish, you're gonna lose if they commit to Rage Art while they're crouching. Like after they block down back 4. What you want to do is focus on trying to see what kind of reaction they'd want to do. So like you're gonna have to just tank a standard punish if they throw out a standard punish like while standing 4-4 for Jin. So you just down back 4, let them Rage Art. And of course the rule still applies, like -8, same thing with like right foot forward and left foot forward, don't move. Because if you mess up you mess it up, right? If you mess up, you're gonna get hit by the Rage Art. So just hold back right after this move. They throw out the Rage Art after crouching it, free launch punish for you. And just like left Flamingo, you can put the foot down. I said everything I need to say about it in left Flamingo. So you know the risks when you do this. Again, get the timing down when Hwoarang's foot is down, and then you'd be able to block. So that's basically the general idea of how to deal against Rage Art in left foot forward, right foot forward, left Flamingo stance, and right Flamingo stance. Now, if we were to order it, obviously, left foot forward and right foot forward are your best bets when an opponent has Rage. The next one is right Flamingo. Right Flamingo is the next best thing because again, at +1 to +4, you're allowed to like beat them with RFS F4. And you have slightly more options. Albeit you have a risky mid. Compared to left Flamingo, which is the last of the bunch, wherein you have a safe mid if you're at +8 on hit after like LFS 3 forward. Besides that, both left Flamingo and right Flamingo will struggle, but left Flamingo has that one special thing where you sidestep right into LFS back one. But yeah, that's the order in terms of safety per stances. But again, focus on putting down the brakes once they have rage and look to bait the rage art, you know, and just keep things simple. But yeah, that's everything I know on dealing with rage arts as Hwoarang. That is the flamingo way to deal with it. So again, has been the lesson for this video. I've been Frontier, and thank you for watching.